And that's kind of why I reached out to you. I saw you guys are obviously your parks are a beautiful thing there in that community. The one being on the bluff that can overlook the whole city, and then obviously you guys got the soccer parks and even like where your swimming pool is. Can you kind of touch on that, and then kind of even maybe the a bigger picture that could be happening is that I guess walking bike path.
So I'm going to take you back to when I was a kid. And I remember my mom taking us up to Blackburn Park, my brother and I, and having a chance to have a picnic, get a chocolate shake from Hoffman's Drive-In and cheeseburgers and fries and onion rings, that type of thing. We'd go up and enjoy Blackburn Park, which over the years deteriorated because just of lack of interest. The park was left to just kind of deteriorate. So years later, there's a local Eagle Scout who was looking for a project and ended up, for his project, he developed a Civil War monument. It's a cannon that sits up there now. And then, as part of the project, cleaned up the park. The city took a renewed interest in that park as a result and has kept it. It kind of, the citizens police that park. It's beautiful up there. It gives a great view of the Ozark Foothills, of the town of Pacific. It's just a great place to go. There's a plaque now that talks about the history of the Civil War activity that took place here in Pacific, along with seeing a life-size 12-pound field howitzer cannon. So that's up there at Blackburn Park now. The renovation of that place got me thinking about another park that's here in town that was privately owned. When I was a child, it was open to the public. It's a civilian conservation corps construction project that was done back in 1938 to commemorate the closest the Confederates got. It was ordered by then President Roosevelt. And under his administration, the Department of Transportation for the state, as well as working with Shaw Nature Reserve on the Garden Way between St. Louis and Gray Summit, where they have Shaw Nature Reserve. They collaborated their efforts, got with the Civilian Conservation Corps, and built a monument up on top of another bluff that's very close to U.S. Silica, we talked about. And that's called Jensen Point. And again, Mom used to take us up there, and Dad, and we'd have picnics when I was a little kid, but then it too fell victim to vandalism, to people stealing some of the rock constructions, the stone that was built up there. Just really, really sad. Broken beer bottles all over the place, graffiti, that type of thing. And so it became a liability in the minds of the aldermen of the town of the day in the 70s and was closed to the public. I remember the fence going up around it and how heartsick I was that we couldn't go up to Jensen Point anymore. But it was closed for about 25 years. And I found out about grants when I got involved in government about 7 years ago. And I learned that I could apply for a grant to purchase that property back and fix it up and reopen it to the public. And that's what happened. I worked with it. That's part of our St. Louis County property that's within the city limits of Pacific. So I filled out a grant application with the St. Louis Municipal Parks Grant Association, and we won. I think now it's over $380,000 worth of grant money that we've won. Opened that park back up after we fixed it up, and now it's one of the best loved places in town. People go to it all the time. It's rare to find the parking lot empty. There's always somebody there enjoying that park. It's 100 stone steps that lead you up to the top of a gazebo and a fort-looking structure. Again, looking out over the Ozark Foothills, the Meramec River, Route 66. It's just a tremendous place, and it's too beautiful for it to be closed off to the public. It's someplace that the public should enjoy, and they do. So yep. that was reopened and added to our park. Our park facilities. I like to say it's Pacific's newest old park.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful up there. As a kid, you can really let your mind run wild. And
yes,
you see the history of the town, the brick buildings, and then it stretches kind of in the newer buildings. And you can really see how the town grew down by the bluffs. just the history of what you said. You know, a lot of the business came off the river or the rail, and so that's where the majority of the buildings were first built. And you can just kind of see how it reaches through the different veins, I guess, of the valleys of that community. And you guys are really blessed to have Shaw's Nature Reserve kind of at the other edge of town, and it's just a remarkable place. For me, growing up, that area was just pretty remarkable.
Right. So it's about to get better.
That's always good.
When I got involved in government again, I started learning about some other efforts that were already underway. The Ozark Trail Association was one of them I learned about just through reading articles about them. I learned about Great Rivers Greenway and what they're doing in St. Louis, building greenways and access to waterfronts and creeks and any kind of waterway. They're very interested in developing a greenway and recreational access all over St. Louis. Their footprint is huge. They don't, however, have any kind of dealings with Franklin County. Their focus is more of a big circle around St. Louis of the surrounding counties directly there around the arch. They're the ones that just recently helped renovate the arch grounds as well. So Great Rivers Greenway, I learned about them, and I learned about Ozark Trail, and I also learned that the two organizations really didn't work together on collaborating to connect what are very similar visions. So the Ozark Trail was working in the state of Missouri, down south from Arkansas all the way up to Onondaga Cave State Park. There's the Ozark Trail. It's a single track backcountry kind of experience, very much like the Appalachian Trail. Great Rivers Greenway, on the other hand, they're building ADA accessible, very expensive projects, but the taxpayers of St. Louis County, St. Charles County, Madison County, they love what Great Rivers Greenway is doing to be able to allow for access to these waterways and these greenways. So Great Rivers Greenway, what they do is a very different animal from what the Ozark Trail is doing. The Ozark Trail doesn't have the funding, nearly the money that the Great Rivers Greenway organization has. So they rely on volunteers to actually carve out the trail from the hillside. Okay, it's a very rugged backcountry experience. So what I learned is that the focus of Ozark Trail and Great Rivers Greenway was kind of merging right here at Pacific. Years ago, I started learning more about them. I joined the Ozark Trail Association, became a board member for them. For 3 years, I served with them to learn about what they do and to help that organization and their cause as much as I could. Then I learned about Great Rivers Greenway, and I said, why don't you guys get together and try to start focusing and planning to where when your trails merge, they merge right here at Pacific so that the trail users can be served by the vendors that are here in Pacific, the restaurants, the hotels, whenever a trail is built and exists, it generates money. Okay, it's about tourism draw. Mm-hmm. It's about being able to provide services, bicycle services, repair shops, that type of thing, and then food and lodging, that type of thing. It just pops up. The Katy Trail, Missouri Department of Conservation developed a study years ago that they claimed that $19 million is generated by the Katy Trail alone from those users who go there, and they spend money whenever they're passing through these little towns, to where those economies now largely depend upon the Katy Trail users.
For sure. That's what kind of got me excited. I would take my bicycle from Jefferson City, ride to Herman, catch the train back with my bicycle, and then be able to drive. I live in Lake of the Ozarks, so I can do all that in a day. And it's just a brilliant trip down the river.
And it's not just individual uses, it's also organizations that'll put a fundraiser together, and they'll have a 100-mile race on the Ozark Trail now. Sometimes it's mountain bikes, sometimes it's on foot. But those are drawing large groups of people to come and spend a weekend at a place that used to be not used at all. So now I see these economic development opportunities, and I don't want the city of Pacific to miss that opportunity like they have other opportunities, that I've seen come and go. Chances to advance the community just didn't stick here for whatever reason. And I want to make darn sure that we are positioning ourselves to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities when they present themselves. And this
as a younger, I'm getting older actually, but I travel quite a bit for these outdoor adventures, and I have to go out of state. And to see our communities embracing that, and to be able to go on these long trips wherever, if we're in Utah or Colorado or any of these biking events, and be able to say, look what our community's doing, and it blows their mind, because the diversity of our landscape in Missouri, Arizona's got rocks and sand, where Missouri we have the rivers, we have the valleys, we have all this life all around us. And to see these trails come into a more of a public viewing, and to have more people experience nature, I think it's only good for our society and so many other outlets out there. It's just great to see a community embrace that.
It is. And one of the things that was a lot of fun, and some people tease me because right now today there's not a trail in Pacific that you can go step on, and we've been working on this for more than 12 years. These things happen slowly, and you have to have a lot of patience to be able to get it done. It's not an overnight success kind of thing. But what I'll tell you is that we're very, very close. We just received the NEPA clearance to start the first 3/4 mile of the trail construction. So now we're shopping for a bridge over Brush Creek. We've got a grant of $150,000 that was awarded to the Magi Foundation, which was a non-for-profit that went after this grant, and they won it. It's all to put a pedestrian bridge over Brush Creek for this first 3/4 mile stretch that'll run from our existing Liberty Field Park down to the Merrimac River. And so let's talk about the Merrimack River for a minute. Under the Highway O Bridge, there was property that I would have loved to have bought, but we had no resources at the time. So we started 12 years ago having fundraisers. The first fundraiser, and I say a small group of individuals who thought this was a worthwhile project. So first thing we did was made apple butter. We worked all weekend to make $600. That was awesome. It's a lot of work for $600, but we did it. That opened our bank account, right? So the next year we decided we're going to do something a little different. We had a concert. We had a Bluegrass Concert. My friend Ed Belling helped me put that together. And that netted $4,000 to the organization. We thought, aha, no more apple butter.
No more apple butter, yeah.
Do concerts. So we figured some things out, and we did another Bluegrass Concert the following year, only did it at my friend's place, Haw Valley Wedding and Event Center, Bill McLaren's place. And Bill helped us throw it there. It was just a special event. We ended up making $20,000 that weekend. Phenomenal. That put us some money in the bank to where when property came for sale, we were able to act. All right, so lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. And there was 3 acres that was directly under that bridge that came for sale, and we bought it. That now is owned by Great Rivers Greenway. That triggered the next neighboring property to be willing to sell to Great Rivers Greenway. They acquired it. That triggered another property. So now today they have 42 acres that aligns just directly behind Liberty Field that is owned by Great Rivers Greenway and is destined to become public access, riverfront park and access, a river access there, a new one. I want to say that their funding is 2 years away from starting that project. The city is going to be working with them on a lot of fronts to be able to develop that. What Great Rivers Greenway does is they'll build the facility and often turn it over then to the city to maintain. Knowing that, we're going to have funding to maintain our parks and improve our parks, which is an initiative that we've started now. A year ago in April, the voters passed what's called Proposition P here in Pacific. We had a committee that the Committee for Better Streets and Parks, that I appointed some folks and got them on board. They led a campaign that won with roughly 74% approval of the voters to put a 0.5-cent sales tax in place for streets and another 0.5-cent for parks here in Pacific. So that's going to help us to maintain and improve our parks. We've got a new initiative now that's been actually formalized just Tuesday night, where we're putting out, there's a company called Planning Design Services that's evaluating our parks all over town. Going to have public input forums to where people can come and have a say in what the parks are going to look like in the future. They evaluate what communities our size are offering to folks and what we aren't, so that we can be competitive with our surrounding communities in the park and recreation offerings that we have here in Pacific. I'm super excited about all of this coming together at this moment in time, because bottom line is we want to raise Pacific's appeal to where when industry is looking for a place to locate, they often look at what are ways that their employees are going to be able to enjoy living in this environment. So we want to raise Pacific's appeal. We want to make it more business friendly. We want to make it more suitable for families to raise their children in Pacific, and they won't have to go anywhere else. Another big thing is for kids when they're graduating high school, they don't want to leave. I want them to be able to anchor right here in Pacific and grow their families right here.
And that's something you guys in that community have. There's a lot of great outdoor activities that can be had with just walking or a bicycle. And you guys have rivers. I mean, you guys can take boats. It's amazing rivers. The Merrimac's beautiful.
Well, again, when I was a kid, it used to always be frustrating because anytime you'd want to go to the river within the city limits of Pacific, and now Pacific is bordered on the east and the south. Our city limits are bordered by the Meramec River, but if you didn't know somebody, you couldn't go there. It was a no trespassing sign waiting for you to greet you if you wanted to go down one of those roads. So that's something that I set out to change years ago when I got involved in government, that one of our greatest resources, the Merrimack River, should be accessible to our citizens. And so that's what we're making happen right now. We've got about a 1 mile river frontage that is now going to be public access riverfront park, based on the efforts of this small group of people who just had the vision and the desire and the fortitude to make it happen.
Well, it was amazing talking with you, and hopefully we'll talk soon. And
all right.
Have a good day.
All right, you do the same, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Bye-bye.